Welcome back to another one of my videos. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Lotta, and today I'm going to show you how to make this really delicious strawberry syrup that you can use in so many different recipes, from layering cakes all the way to making really delicious summery drinks. So if you want to see how to make this syrup, keep watching the video and let's get right into it. Now the first thing we need to do is make sure that the bottles that we're going to store our syrup in is nice and clean. So to do that, I'm basically just going to boil some water in my kettle, and then I'm going to thoroughly rinse the bottles as well as the lids and put them onto a nice and clean kitchen towel to dry off. That's just going to help make sure that any bacteria or anything else that is on our bottles quickly dies off from the hot water, and that way our syrup is hopefully not going to go bad. Now that our bottles are cleaned out, we can go ahead and start with the actual syrup. Now the basic recipe for syrup is 1 liter of liquid to 1 kilo of sugar. Now 1 kilo of sugar is definitely a lot of sugar, so if you want to reduce that, you definitely can. Now I would recommend to not go under 600 grams of sugar to 1 liter of liquid. That being said, to your basic recipe, you can go ahead and add a bunch of different things, from lemon juice, orange juice, to fruit, to dried herbs, to flowers, or really anything else that you want to add into your syrup to give it that flavor. In our case, we're using strawberries, but again, you can use just about anything that you want. Now in this video, I'm going to be making a smaller batch of a strawberry syrup. So for that, I'm using 500 grams of strawberries, 200 grams of sugar, the juice of half a lemon, and then we're also going to need a little bit of water depending on how much juice we can get from our strawberries. Now I already went ahead and washed my strawberries. I do have a few strawberries that have a couple of bruises. That's okay with me because I'm not too worried about my syrup going bad, because I'm going to use it up pretty quickly because I'm making a smaller batch. But if you are making a bigger batch, I would recommend using fruit that is as fresh and ripe as possible and doesn't really have any bruises or any spots that are going bad. And that's just gonna make sure that it stays as fresh as possible and that it's not gonna go bad when you put it into your bottles. That being said, the first thing we're going to do is cut up our strawberries and cook that down with a splash of water on the stove until it's nice and cooked down and soft, so we can get all that strawberry aroma out of our strawberries. Now to our chopped strawberries, I'm going to add about 50 to 100 milliliters of water. You basically just want to make sure that the bottom of your pot is covered. That way our strawberries aren't going to burn when we put it onto the stove. And it's also going to help bring everything up to a boil and help cook down our strawberries. Yeah, I think that was exactly 100 milliliters. So I'm going to bring this up to a boil. I'm going to boil it for about 5 minutes or so, or until my strawberries are nice and mashed up and we've got a nice cooked down strawberry mixture. Now I let my strawberries cook for about 5 minutes or so, and they've completely mashed up and we've got this nice soupy consistency. So at this point, we're gonna go ahead and strain it to separate our liquid from our strawberry flesh. Now I'm just using a typical mesh sieve. If you wanna make sure that your syrup is super nice and clear, you can also go ahead and run it through a cheesecloth. And that's just basically going to separate even more of the liquid from the flesh. That way it's going to be a little bit more clear than when you're using just a mesh sieve like this, which isn't as fine as a cheesecloth. If you do use a cheesecloth, it is going to take a little bit longer to run through. But again, that's the price you pay if you want really nice clear syrup. So. Now I've squeezed out as much of the strawberry juice as I can. So at this point, I'm left with this almost colorless strawberry fruit flesh. Now feel free to save this and add it into cakes or muffins, but it is gonna be pretty flavorless because we've essentially cooked out all of the flavor and it's in our juice. So it's up to you if you wanna save it and add it into other baked goods, or you can just compost it if you want to as well. Now I ended up getting out roughly 250 milliliters of my fruit juice. So I'm just gonna fill that up to about 400 milliliters with water. Now at this point, we're gonna go ahead and add all of our remaining ingredients back into our clean pot. And we're gonna bring that back up to a boil to let our sugar dissolve and to make sure that any bacteria or anything gets killed off in the boiling process. Now another way that you can keep your syrup from going bad is to scoop off some of that excess foam and those bubbles that are on top of your syrup. And that's just going to lower the amount of air that's in our bottles. And again, that's just going to help make sure that your syrup doesn't go bad. Now I managed to scoop off most of the foam that was on my syrup. So at this point, all that's left to do is carefully fill it into our cleaned out bottles. Now you want to make sure to fill your bottles pretty much all the way to lower the amount of air that's in your bottles. And again, that's just going to make sure that your syrup doesn't go bad. Now I ended up having almost the perfect amount for exactly one bottle, which was ideal. So at this point, all that's left to do is let this cool off completely, and then we can go ahead and store it in our pantry. Now, once you've opened it, I recommend putting it into the fridge, again, just to make sure that it doesn't go bad and that it stays as fresh as possible. Now, if you look really closely on my strawberry syrup, you can see that there are a couple little tiny chunks of my strawberry flesh in here. Again, that's totally fine with me, but if you want a super clear syrup, feel free to use that cheesecloth when you're straining it, and then it should be much clearer than mine. Now there's lots of ways to use your finished syrup. You can use it for layering cakes or on top of ice cream, or you can use it to make some really delicious summery drinks with sparkling water or Prosecco, or you can add it to your homemade lemonade and have a delicious strawberry lemonade. So that's going to be everything for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up or write me a comment down below. And as always, the whole recipe is going to be in the description box as well.